Hey guys, what's going on? It's Ash here coming at you today in Clash Royale. You guys know I like to try to switch things up here content-wise, keep things fresh. That's exactly what we're going to do today. I want to talk about an issue that I've been kind of observing from afar. I've never really talked about here on the channel for the last year or so, and it has to do with balancing, and it's really more of a conversational piece than an opinion video today. I want to hear from you guys. What do you think the appropriate solution for the argument, the case that I'm going to lay out for you guys today is? Can't wait to hear what your solutions are in the comments, because honestly guys, I don't know what the solution is. And this is not meant to be an indictment on Supercell. I think they're doing the best job given the parameters that they have right now of balancing the game, but I think that we're getting closer and closer to that bridge that one day we're going to collectively jump off together, unless this is addressed sooner rather than later. So guys, you know what? Without further ado, let's get down to business. I don't time to play around. What is this? Must be a circus in town. We shut this shit down on these clowns, and I get a witness. Alright guys, so yeah, balancing is the issue today, and I want to start by just outlining three categories of game modes in the game right now that all require very specific and very different balancing in order to get perfect, right? Number one is 2v2. 2v2, cards like Giant Skeleton are very good in 2v2, whereas they're just very average or even below average at tournament level standard and ladder. Cards like Elite Barbarians and Royal Giant can easily be over-leveled and be stronger than really they are. You know, there's no doubt about it. These cards suck and they deserve a buff at tournament level standard, but that would not be a good idea, be that to the dismay of millions of ladder players. Now, ladder and 2v2 are far more popular than tournament level standard, so shouldn't you balance more geared towards the more popular game modes? But wait a minute, what about tournament level standard? They have $1 million CRL league going on right now, competitive esports. Shouldn't the game be balanced for tournament level standard, where cards like Royal Hogs are running wild right now, and Royal Hogs are not really used that much on ladder at all. They're less than 1% use rate on ladder, whereas at tournament level standard, they're very, very high. So you guys can kind of see where I'm getting at here. With really 3.5 game modes, if you include touchdown, which is not a permanent game mode in the game, it's impossible to balance this game appropriately and serve the needs of players of every single game mode. So I've always been of the belief that they should balance this game at tournament level standard. That should be the priority of balance, and I think the team has erred towards tournament level standard for the most part in the past. Now the reason I say that is because there's an even playing field at tournament level standard. Your cards are the same level as long as you're level 9 and you have the cards up to tournament level standard, and it just makes sense to balance the game where things are the most fair and even. However, going back to my original point, that's the least popular game mode, so why would they balance based on the least popular game modes in the game? Doesn't really make sense, does it? So how should they balance? Should there be 3 separate balance strategies where every card has different parameters given the game mode? Well, that really needlessly complex, it adds a level of complexity to the game that would make things really hard to understand. Okay, wait a second here. So my Giant Skeleton does, or my Fireball does, you know, let's use an easier card. Does 300 damage at 2v2 and 200 damage at ladder and 400 damage at what? You know, it's really difficult to balance all 3 of these game modes. It's an impossible task. So who should they balance to? I was actually going to make this video my balance wish list, and as soon as I started writing down the cards, I was like, you know what? There's no good solution here. I was going to say buff Elite Barbarian and Royal Giant, but that's not a good solution. They shouldn't be buffing Elite Barbarian and Royal Giant unless they want to make ladder even more hellish for free-to-play players, right? So what is the solution here? Now there's a whole nother layer that we haven't talked about yet, and that is the addition of new cards to the game. We currently have 88 cards in the game, and every new card that they add to the game makes balancing this ecosystem of 88 plus cards even more challenging. Because every time you introduce a new win condition, a new spell, or a new card of any variety to the game, it impacts and affects indirectly every single card in the game. Now we can even extend that one step further. Every time they do a monthly balance change, not only are they buffing or nerfing 8 cards, but also the 8 cards that are the best counter to those 8 cards, or, you know, like, there's a trickle-down effect, right? So let me give you an example. Royal Hogs are probably going to get a nerf, another nerf, right? Because they're really, really popular at tournament level standard, and they're dominating CRL. So if they get a nerf, we're just starting to see the Mega Knight become more prevalent right now in tournament level standard to counter those hogs. So it's also a very small indirect usage nerf, because there's less usage for the Mega Knight when they nerf the Royal Hogs, right? So what I'm trying to point out here is that every card has a little bit of a trickle down. It's very subtle, and most of the time it goes by completely unnoticed. But it does. Every time they balance change any card, it really affects the entire pool of cards. Now, there's another added problem here, another problem for you guys to consider, and that is the monthly balance changes. I do think that it makes the game exciting, similar to new cards. I mean, I love covering the balance changes. I love making my balance change wish list videos, and it's really fun and exciting and fresh and new, and for all those reasons, I like it. However, I still think that it's bad for balance in a weird way, right? Because when you're buffing or nerfing 8 cards, only giving the meta 4 weeks to settle, you're just not seeing the full picture, at least in my opinion. And that's why you're seeing kind of interesting nerfs and buffs where they're touching sometimes the same card back to back to back. They'll buff the Royal Hogs, and then they'll have to nerf the Royal Hogs a little bit, and then they'll have to nerf the Royal Hogs a little bit. They'll release the Royal Recruits, who, by the way, are still the worst card in the game, and that's universal. They're the worst win percentages at tournament level standard, they're the worst at ladder, and the worst at 2v2. Royal Recruits are just not used right now. I mean, very seldomly used, like 0.01%. So they were OP when they entered the game, and then they nerfed them to oblivion, and then they haven't been used since. And I think it's just very challenging to do 8 balance changes every single month. I would rather see them just balance maybe 2 or 3 cards, or whatever they feel is absolutely necessary. And speaking of necessary versus unnecessary, I love each and every one of you guys, but I don't understand how 30+% of you voted for Ice Wizard getting a buff. It's not that I have a problem with Ice Wizard getting a buff. I don't have a problem with that. But throwing the community those options is pretty cool, because they were vetted by Supercell. Supercell already considered buffing these 4 cards or nerfing these 4 cards. However, I think the other 3 cards were incredibly deserving of a buff. Ice Wizard already has high use and win rates. So to further buff Ice Wizard and hypothetically, they're going to ignore the other 3. I don't know. Maybe they'll throw them as a bonus. I hope they do. Doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. I know there's a little bit of a digression. I'll get back on point here. But, you know, the suffice it to say, the huge issue here is that I see this game heading into a direction where it's going to be impossible to balance appropriately. Now, on the glass half full side here, the good news is every archetype is still viable, even if every card is not. I'm going to go ahead and flash on the screen right now the 8 worst cards at ladder right now and at tournament level standard, and you guys can see that these cards need some love, but, you know, except for some niche cases, that these cards there's better cards that do a better job at these things, and that's another danger I see in the game. I like when they add new cards to the game, but how much is enough? Is 100 cards enough in the game? Is 200 cards enough in the game? Is 500 cards enough in the game? And what does that do to the overall landscape of the game? Now, I'm a big time, back in my day at least, I was a big time Magic the Gathering player. And I really like what they did with their game, right? Over the course of 20, 30 years now, right? Is it's evolved to having different cards for different standards, different modes of gameplay. Basically, they can phase out old cards. They're not necessary anymore. So maybe that's the solution to the future of Clash Royale. What is Clash Royale going to look like in 2 or 3 or 4 years? I do think the game will still be around then. My question is, what will it look like? How will it be balanced? With double the cards that we have right now, how can you balance the game? With monthly balance changes, without waiting for the meta to settle down, how can you appropriately balance this game? So guys, I'm going to leave you with that. Again, I ask you guys, right now, given our current situation, how To what game mode should Supercell be balancing their cards? It's really difficult to say. I don't know the answer, but I'm looking forward to sharing the problem with you guys. And who knows, maybe I can have Seth back on the channel and we can discuss this very topic. I don't know, I'll reach out to him if that's something that you guys would like to see. But until then, guys, I'll leave you with those thoughts. I think all in all, probably the most popular solution you guys will give me is to balance everything separately. But that just adds a level of complexity that I'm not sure is going to be the best for the game either. You know, like we talked about. So I don't know what the solution is, but I look forward to hearing from you guys either way. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this kind of thought-provoking issue in the game, and let me know, maybe you disagree with me. Maybe you're very happy with just having the game a bit unbalanced in different game modes. But guys, either way, that's going to end the video. Huge shout out to Bren Chong, my YouTube partner. Shout out to all of you guys for continuing to support the channel. It means the world to me, guys. I really appreciate it. So thank you, and as always, take care, guys.